cheer. Queens of York, the atmosphere, and the crowd that never tame. Mets Postgame Show brings the flame.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another Mets Postgame Show right here on the channel and on X. And we are talking about another victory for our New York Mets as they sweep the St. Louis Cardinals at Citi Field. 7-4 is the final of today's game, and a lot of guys that we wanted to see come up big for the New York Mets offensively did do that such today. Welcome to the show, guys. Hit on that like button. Hit on that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber yet of my channel and Chris's channel. And, guys, we know Chris is not here, but guess what we're going to do, guys? We're going to spam those W's for our boy Chris. Put him in the chat, guys. Get those spamming those W's in the chat. Let's go. We got a sweep on our hands for our New York Mets. Sweeping the St. Louis Cardinals 7-4. Clay Holmes pitched damn good. Besides Danny Young, everybody else pitched good in the Mets bullpen. And just overall, it was a game where it was a series where the Cardinals are a pesky team. They don't give up. And you saw it yesterday. You saw it today. You saw it in the series. They're not an easy out. They're not an easy team to beat. They keep on coming at you, and the Mets continue to find ways to win. And they added those insurance runs. You know, started all with Francisco Lindor getting the leadoff home run to start the game. Then Juan Soto with a sacrifice fly, and then Pete Alonso gives them the single, making the Mets lead 3-0. And then slowly but surely, the pesky Cardinals start to come back in this game with Burleson's fielder's choice, and then Tagasi with the double that tied the game. And then it's 3-3, and we're like, all right, here we go. We got a little game on our hands now. And then Brandon Nimmo. Finally, Brandon Nimmo comes up with a man on second and finally gets that base hit that he desperately needed to drive in what we thought would be the go-ahead and winning run of the game. But it ended up being the speed of Luis Acuna, the speed of Tyrone Taylor, driving in the soon-to-be game-winning run to make it 5-4, or it was actually 5-3, but it ended up needing that run, that insurance run, with the double by Acuna, and then Tyrone Taylor hitting that flail over the first baseman's head, the beat out a double, and driving in Luis Acuna, making it 5-3. Then it was 5-4. But the Mets added on a couple of runs, and it was just c'est la vie. And then Juan Soto and this is when you know Juan Soto is starting to go, right? It's not about the home runs, right? That's not when you feel like you're getting out of a slump. It's when you start driving the ball to the opposite field, and Juan Soto drove it to the left center field gap, driving in two and making the game out of reach. Adding on those 2 extra runs, 3 RBIs on the day for Juan Soto. Best game as a New York Met, just looking better at the plate, guys. Juan Soto looks like he's just getting in the groove a little bit more. He's hitting the ball harder, and you could just see that line drive in the left center field gap, driving into 2 runs, and that was with 2 strikes. That's when Juan Soto is at his best, right? He doesn't try to do too much. He'll go with the pitch, and that's exactly what he did in that at bat. And it's nice to see Brandon Nimmo come through in a big spot. Juan Soto twice today came up in a big spot when you needed a couple more insurance runs because the Cardinals just don't go away. And it ended up being a couple of runs more that Juan Soto drives in, making it 7 runs on the day for the New York Mets. And the Mets, with Ryan Stanek, give him a couple of hits, a little bit, get a little fishy there. But he got the job done, and the Mets sweep the Cardinals, and we're waiting for Philly to come to town as they're going through extra inning game against the Marlins right now, and they're in Philly, so a quick jump over the turnpike and they'll be here. But guys, this is what we were talking about starting this series, starting this homestand. After you lose the series against the Twins, you're like, damn, we kind of lost an opportunity there to have a winning road trip. We ended up being a 500 road trip. Coming back home against, again, a Cardinals team that was 500 coming into Citi Field. And the Mets weren't offensively great. They've been getting better game by game offensively. But when they needed to get the hit, they got the hit. They got those runs in, and they did the job. The pitching was once again outstanding. The offense, you could see these guys getting better and better. The guys you want to see getting better and better. It was just a very good performance for this whole team. And this is what you want to do. They're 9-1 in Citi Field. When you dominate at home, yeah, we want to be better on the road, but when you're a 500 team at home, when you end up being 500 at home and end up being 8-9 games over 500 at home, you're in very good shape, guys. And that is exactly what this team got to continue to do at home. There's a vibe at Citi Field that has continued since the playoff run. Let's be honest, since June of last year. The vibes at Citi Field have been absolutely amazing, and it has trickled down and continued into the 2025 season at home. The Mets have a different boost of energy when they're at home. And again, that is a great home field advantage to have. This is when you got your fans behind you. You got the team loves playing at home. How many years have we talked about the Mets can't play well at home? They're better on the road. It destroyed seasons. It made them work harder. It just didn't feel right. But when you're playing so good at home, everything comes naturally. It should be easy to play at home. It should be. You got the fans behind you, the crowd jumping. It was an excellent crowd for this Easter/Passover Sunday. And, another 4-game homestand. They're probably well over 100,000 throughout that series. And then you got the Phillies on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So just amazing. Lindor, best April in a New York Mets uniform. Just been outstanding. Again, we give all the credit in the world to Mendoza as well for making that change late May for Lindor going in the leadoff spot. And it's changed Lindor's whole career so far as a New York Met, right? It was kind of, all right, Lindor has had a good season, but ever since he became the leadoff hitter, he's been MVP caliber. He's been the leader. He's been the guy. And now when you have, Pete Alonso doing what he's been doing this year, and Juan Soto's coming along, and you see the guys just getting the clutch hits, doing what they're doing. Even Nimmo had to join the party, and hopefully that gets him going a little bit, because we're going to need every single guy. The guy number 1 on the roster to guy number 26 on this roster against the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies, Harper and Schwarber, have been red hot for the Philadelphia Phillies. Again, they've been outstanding. They've been their 2 best players on their team this season. They're going through a fight today against the Marlins in extra innings. But this is the biggest test for the New York Mets starting tomorrow. And nothing is better than having a 4-game winning streak, sweeping the series against a pesky Cardinals team, and going into the game tomorrow night with Tyler McGill on the mound against Aaron Nola. Can't ask for anything more. They're playing extremely well. They're 8 games over 500. They're going to maintain at least a 1-game lead in the NL East, and don't think that does not matter, guys. It absolutely does. If they lose today, the Mets will be up 2 full games in the NL East going into tomorrow's series against the Phillies. These games are important. I know it's tomorrow will be April 21st, but it's so important because if this is going to be the battle all season with the Phillies, a tiebreaker can come into play. So you got to win. You play them 13 times this season. The Mets were 6-7 last year against the Philadelphia Phillies, so they were just around 500. You don't want to make it interesting here, right? You want to have the tiebreaker. Obviously, you want to have the better record, but if it ends up being a tiebreaker, you want to have that going into the end of the season, knowing that you got the tiebreaker against the Phillies. And, the Braves are falling apart. I think they won today, or they're winning today against the Twins. And they had that whole Ronald Acuna situation. They had that Kelnick, the former Mets prospect, not running out of ball and getting tagged out at second base. There's a lot going on in Atlanta right now, and slowly but surely the Mets are distancing themselves from the Atlanta Braves, and that's a great sign. So the most important thing is that the Mets are continuing to win and they're playing well. And the fact that they are 15-7 right now, still with the offense, not where I still don't think they're at their peak yet. They are ready to face a team that is right around them, that is just as good, if not better. We don't know that yet, but they're just as good as us right now. They're keeping toe-to-toe with us record-wise, and we're ready to go. We are absolutely ready to go. And the biggest test of the year starts tomorrow. They can't be playing any better than they are right now. This is the second longest winning streak of the season, which is very short. It's only 21 games right now. So 22 games right now. So let's go. Like, I'm ready. I'm ready for tomorrow. I'm waiting for tomorrow. I can't wait for tomorrow. I wish it was Monday. Not really, because I got to work, and most of us got to work. So, I don't think we want to wait. Can't wait until tomorrow. How about we can't wait until after work? How about that? We can't wait until after work. We could do a pregame. We could do a postgame. Talk about Mets Phillies, and let's go. I'm ready. And the Phillies just lost. So the Mets are full 2 games up in the NL East right now. And again, guys, let's go. No excuses. We are one of the better teams in baseball. We're facing another one of the better teams in baseball in the Philadelphia Phillies. It is 2 powerhouses in the NL East and in baseball going against each other tomorrow. Can't wait. But let's go over it again, guys. Francisco Lindor leading off the game, solo home run, hit the shot in the same area where he hit the walk-off the other night. Got Juan Soto with 3 RBIs. You got Alonso once again driving in another run. And then Acuna and Tyrone Taylor basically ended. Acuna with the double, Tyrone Taylor with the double. Tyrone Taylor drives in Acuna to make the 5th run of the ballgame that ended up being the winning run overall when the game was all said and done, because the Cardinals did score an extra run. So Tyrone Taylor gets the RBI double, driving in Luis Angel Acuna. Speed kills speed, and it ended up being the winning run overall for the game, and the Mets win 7-4. Besides Danny Young, you got Jose Butto coming in, doing his job. We got Ryan Stanek doing his job. And we also had Clay Holmes, once again, 6 innings, exactly what I said in the pregame. I wanted to see him go 6 innings. I think that's – I know he has the stuff to do it. He has the stuff to do it, and he was really damn good. 6 strikeouts, 2 walks, 1 earned run, 4 hits, and obviously 6 innings on the day. Really, really nice. And the good news is that we're continuing to get great pitching, and it's absolutely outstanding how good this pitching has been. And yeah, absolutely right. You know what? Beatty would have probably scored 2, but Acuna made it a no doubt, 100% with that. Yeah, you ain't kidding, man. Like probably the softest hit balls of the day were the 2 doubles, and because of Tyrone Taylor's speed and Acuna's speed, they got the job done. And you know what? That ended up being the winning run overall in the game. So awesome job, Geraldo. Happy Easter to you as well. Yeah, Joe, 100% I agree, right? Acuna's got to get on base a little bit more for sure. And, I mean, that speed is insanely crazy, how good his speed is. And, yeah, he can easily steal 60 bases for sure, depending on where he is in a lineup. Because, again, if he's at the bottom of the order, make him run by all means every single time. If he's at the top of the order, which probably is not going to happen with the 3 guys at the top of the order. But when he's at the bottom of the order, what you want to do is try to get every run you can get out of your bottom of the order for sure. So with Acuna's speed at the bottom of the order, it can definitely, you could see him with the on base being a little higher, actually being part of, an outstanding speed demon, and the speed that the Mets, for the most part, really don't have much speed. And that would be exactly what would help this team is a little bit of speed, because look, it actually ended up being a perfect situation with Tyrone Taylor getting the double and with Acuna getting the double before him, and it ended up being the winning run. Yeah, Joe, exactly. That's what I think Gary Cohen said or one of the guys on the broadcast said exactly that. You can't walk Acuna because it's an automatic double for 100% for sure. Let's see. Let's see. Let me check. Worry-free philosophy, Hakuna Matata. Well, Rose, that's 100% true. They do fear him on the base path. Mike, I do agree with that. Like I said, the whole point of the earlier pregame and the conversations that we had is the fact that all signs with the Mets doing what they were going to do on opening day prior to the Jeff McNeil injury is to actually, not have Acuna on the team because Beatty would have made the last spot on the roster. And, again, I don't see any reason why you would have to send Luis Angel Acuna down. But again, you got to understand what the organization's looking for and what they're trying to do here. I hope he can get some more playing time. I really do. But it's going to be hard, especially when Tyron Taylor is basically your center fielder right now. And Jeff McNeil is going to start every day once he comes back from the minors and his rehab. Now, according to the Mets, they're going to keep Alvarez and McNeil down for more at bats for the rest of the week. So that gives Acuna even more time to prove that he continues to be belong there. And same thing with Beatty. So it's just what has to be done. And hopefully, and again, if they could find a way to keep these guys on the roster, it would be awesome. Unfortunately, we could only have 26 guys on the roster, but it will be very interesting to see their decisions, because their decisions, is going to be what is going to either help this team or hurt this team. But again, have Stearns and the Mets really have made bad roster decisions for the most part? It seems like everything they touch turns to gold all of a sudden. It's crazy. But, there's X factors, again, the role players on this team and all this entire roster, everybody has been productive in some sort of way. No, you see, Rails, this is what you just don't understand. You don't like the fact that I was speaking facts, and I was speaking the fact that the organization is actually showing you and proving what they're doing based on their evidence of what they have done for the first couple of weeks of the season, of what they actually have been doing with Beatty and Acuna on this team. You don't seem to realize that. I never killed Acuna. I'm telling you what he has done. If you don't like that, I'm telling you, leave. I don't have no problem with you leaving. I don't want nobody here that doesn't want to be here. And again, somebody, I guess, blocked you earlier. I guess one of the guys that, run the chat, they probably did. I'm not sure, because I didn't see you after what we were talking about. But at the same time, it wasn't killing. Again, you completely misconstrued what I was saying. The fact of the matter is that what Acuna wouldn't have been on this team if it wasn't for McNeil's injury. That's a fact. No, but Luis, I never said he didn't do his thing today. You guys are listening today? I never said that. I gave Acuna a ton of credit. He was the main reason why the Mets got the 5th run after the Tyrone Taylor double. The speed kills. I've said that. Yeah, I don't block people. It's the guys that run the chat that have been, moderators for years. So they might not always be in the chat, but they're always checking the chat. So I don't block. My hand's always here. I promise you that. And I talk with my hands, so you always see my hands. So, but the fact of the matter is, I didn't kill Acuna. I'm telling you what the issues. The Mets told you themselves. I'm not telling you this. Lindor said it. And I think, and again, open ears, I've said, Louis, why did the Mets bring up Acuna last year instead of Brett Beatty? Because he wasn't doing anything. And by the way, he was the third baseman with Jeff McNeil and Jose Iglesias. So where was Acuna playing? Like, let's not act like Acuna was playing well in spring training the last season, because he wasn't. I wasn't bad-mouthing Acuna. I was telling you what the Mets and what I was seeing. But nobody's rewarding the strikeout king. The Mets are, not me. I said I'd rather have Acuna up here but playing every day. The Mets still want him to get at bats every single day. It's going to be very hard with Jeff McNeil and Tyron Taylor being the everyday center fielder to give Acuna a lot of at bats. He might not even get that many at bats now. He's been getting some. He's been getting a lot, but he probably won't be getting that much. And by the way, Beatty was the third baseman before Vientos. So Acuna wasn't even in the thought process of the New York Mets after Brett Beatty got sent down. It was Mark Vientos. Acuna wasn't even a thought. And he wasn't a thought the entire season until Lindor got hurt. And the reason why was because Jet Williams was hurt and not playing well. You didn't have Ronnie Mauricio. So who are you turning to in the minor leagues? Acuna was the only guy that can play the middle infield that was available. And he did his job. What the Mets needed, he did that and beyond. Like, there's no mistake about it. I never said Acuna is not going to be the better player. But you have to understand, the Mets are telling you exactly what I've told you. That they believe there's a learning curve with Luis Angel Acuna. As good as he's been, they still think, again, you're not going to sit a top prospect on the bench. It's stupid. You're screwing with his development when he's probably going to be the second baseman next year. You're going to screw with his development, and the Mets know that. They've talked about his mental mistakes. They talked about his lack of focus. I didn't say that. They said that. I don't think Beatty will be traded because I don't think there's any value in for any team with Beatty. The only I guess you could say value is that he's not making no money. But you're going to have to package him with other top prospects depending on what the Mets might need. Yeah, and that's a fact. Like, Acuna wasn't doing anything in the minors. He wasn't hitting. He had a bad couple of errors in the minors. He's learning. I don't necessarily care about minor league numbers. You could see what the talent that he has and that he will have. Why I think he's going to be a very good player. But he was the only one left, and the Mets needed the middle infielder. So it is what it is. But we will see the decision the Mets make when McNeil and Alvarez comes back. When the rosters flip a little bit because our starters are getting healthier, we will see. And again, I ain't crying wolf if Brett Beatty is the one sent down. But the Mets also actually told you, if you listen to David Stearns, and I know some of you don't because you don't listen, the fact of the matter is he said this. He knows Brett Beatty, there's nowhere else to develop him. He is what he is. Is he going to be whatever he is now, and that's the best Brett Beatty you're going to have as a New York Met? Who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. So they said it. Again, holding a spot and taking a spot away from a young player in the minors doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't benefit the young player. It ain't benefiting Beatty. So that means ultimately you're not benefiting from the Mets farm system at all. And then you also have to understand that Brett Beatty will fit the role of being a bench player better than Luis Angel Acuna. Because I hope they can find Acuna starting games every game. But where is he playing every single day when McNeil and Tyron Taylor are in the lineup? He's still going to get sporadic playing time like he is now. Now, if that's what you want, if you want him to get a game here and a game there, a couple of pinch runs here or a couple of, defensive replacements here, then all right, then that's who you want. But I don't see that making him a better ball player and preparing him for a 162-game season that we're probably going to need him for next year. So that's the point. All right, here we go. Do I think they're sending him down? I think the situation that what they're looking for and what they need from Acuna, again, when they talk about his lack of focus, right? Lindor said this. The organization said this. I don't think they think that he can keep his focus throughout an entire game while he's on the bench, which he's a young kid. I don't expect him to be, headline focus in every pitch and every part of the game when he's not playing. But the Mets see it differently. They told you this. So, and even with McNeil being out so early in spring training, Brett Beatty had the nod the entire time in spring training. The Mets were basically telling you this. And if you don't remember, the day before spring training, me and Chris were ready to do the season preview interview stream, and they didn't even announce Luis Acuna as the last man on the roster yet. So they were even questioning to put him on the roster on opening day. Rels, but he's hitting in the majors. I agree. I see that. But you're still stunting his growth. He's not playing every day. You got to listen. You're just not listening today. You're just not at all. He's not playing every day. There's a pretty good chance tomorrow with the right hander on the mound, you might get Brett Beatty in the lineup. So what are you going to say then? Acuna should be playing? Duh. There's been times already where Brett Beatty has gotten the nod in back-to-back games over Luis Acuna, even when Beatty still wasn't hitting and Acuna was looking a little bit better. Why is that? It ain't going based on matchup, because there's multiple times where Brett Beatty got a couple of starts where I was like, why isn't Acuna playing? And Acuna played over Brett Beatty when matchups didn't make sense against a pitcher. So what is that telling you? Like, it ain't just always a gut feeling. So that's the idea. Yeah, well, Rels, I agree with you on that part. Again, the Mets had two opportunities to trade with the Marlins. The Marlins wanted Brett Beatty for Jesus Luzardo multiple times. The Mets, again, this is not Stearns' fault because he wasn't here. This was the Alderson Epler situation. They were not willing to trade Brett Beatty. But if you go back to that time, most Mets fans didn't want to do that either, because he was our only, saving grace at third base. He was supposed to be our next third baseman, right? Vientos wasn't even a thought because he didn't really have a position, and he was basically a DH. So, okay, Rels, interesting. Let's see. Rels, I do get it. The fact of the matter is, you're not paying attention to what the Mets are doing. And that's okay. You don't want to pay attention to the game. That's on you. It's not about what Acuna has been doing. He's been better overall from Brett Beatty. I think he's going to be the better player. That's not a comment that you don't listen to. You don't want to listen to anything I say, which is fine. I mean, you've been here twice already, so that's on you for being here. The fact of the matter is that it's not about being a laughingstock. And if you think I'm the laughingstock, then you're more of an idiot than I thought. So it is what it is. The fact of the matter is that they're telling you, and they still continue to play Brett Beatty, even when Acuna's been the guy that seems to be more dynamic, right? That's a fact. So why are they doing that? Why is Brett Beatty still playing? Why is he starting? I don't know, because it would be funny if Brett Beatty plays tomorrow. Hope he's not, but there's a pretty good chance of that. And there's a strong possibility, even with Vientos day-to-day, both of them might be in a lineup, and that might be good too, because they're both starting. So nobody's really platooning against each other. Beatty will play third, Acuna will play second base. So I don't even think Beatty's a one-tool player, to be quite honest with you. I don't even think he is. I mean, he surprised me with the glove this year. I think he's been better than expected defensively, because he's been terrible at third base, but he's played second and third pretty damn well. So that kind of shocks me. I don't even think he has any tool in the bag. the Mets were always expecting power from him. He basically has none, or he hasn't shown any. And well, yeah, he's a quadruple A player, Lewis. That's what he is. Unfortunately, best case scenario, Brett Beatty would have been a better player, and the Mets would have had more options. But again, there's a reason why Beatty's still here. Like the Mets like him. I'm sorry, the Mets like him. I don't know. They're telling you they're forcing Brett Beatty down our throats, right? Because of the big spring he had, the Mets just believed that the fact that they think this is Beatty's last chance, and I agree with that. It is his last chance. That's why sending him to the minors makes no sense. It doesn't help the Mets farm system because you're going to play Brett Beatty every day because he's going to start hitting in the minors. He'll hit about 7 home runs in 10 games. And the fact is, he is not going to benefit in the minor leagues anymore because he is what he is. So what you're looking for is what you might be able to get out of Brett Beatty at the big league level as a bench player and a role player. That's what I've been saying. The Mets know there's no benefit of Brett Beatty going down. There just isn't. They're not going to release him because he's making no money. So it's stupid to do that. Maybe you will find a team that's a fool to take him and we might get something for him. Yeah. Gora, I hardly doubt that. If a team does that, they're the biggest idiots in the world. Hey, would I do Beatty for Gora, Beatty for Sears? Absolutely. Let's see. Yeah, Joe. Well, McGill has actually been much better than Brett Beatty. Even last year, he had at least 10 good starts out of his 25. He was good. So at least McGill has shown some life. Beatty's shown some life. His first game in Atlanta, hitting the home run, and then that's been nothing. Well, yeah, Joe, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying in effect there's no benefit of sending Brett Beatty down. And the Mets know that. He's going to bat 370, had about 9 home runs, and look like a player again. But we know it's a big old lie. So they're trying to get every ounce of what they can get from Brett Beatty at the big league level. And if that happens to be a role player, a bench player who can play third base at times, and oh, by the way, if Vientos is day-to-day, depending on when he comes back, hopefully everything's fine. They say he's fine. It could have been a cramp, whatever it was. But let's say Vientos isn't ready to go in a couple of days. Where do you think Brett Beatty's going? He's going to be playing third base. So, again, if Acuna's on this team, I want him starting every day. I do. I've said that even in the pregame. But the Mets are still not doing it, and there's open spots where they can play him every single day. I thought they were going to start him one of these days in center field. They haven't. For whatever reason. They haven't. And they're not even playing him at second base every single day. Still. Luis, I don't know. I don't know. I wish I can answer that, but I don't have the answer. The Mets have been throwing everything at the wall when it comes to second base. They've been playing Beatty more times than games where I didn't think Beatty should be in the lineup, and he was over Acuna. It doesn't make sense how many times they're playing Acuna. Playing Beatty. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not sure. That's what's confusing, because they're still playing Beatty probably more than all of us would like over Acuna. Look, if it's a day like today where Acuna and Beatty in the lineup, I'm cool with that. But to take Acuna out of the lineup for Brett Beatty doesn't make sense, because you're hurting the growth of Luis Acuna. The at-bats that he would be getting, he isn't getting because of Brett Beatty. Put Acuna at third. Luis, they're not going to do that. It's probably his worst. I'm not going to say his worst position. Probably his least likely positions to play. It's either second base, shortstop, or center field. He's played a handful of games at third base, not a lot. Again, I would. Trust me, I would. It makes no sense. Well, Rose, that's the thing. we're both going back and forth, but it's what the Mets are showing me. If we're thinking Acuna is the better player and it makes more sense to play Acuna every day, why aren't the Mets doing that? Like, that's the issue. Oh, yeah, Luis, I agree with that. I think you're young enough to learn, and he has the ability. He has the speed. He's agile. He has the ability. I think he could do it. But, again, they see Brett Baty as a guy that can play third base. Like, I'm not saying anything that they're not showing you. Like that's the thing. Like, they're showing me something that they since spring training, everything out of David Stern's mouth has been about Brett Baty. He talked a little about Acuna, saying, yeah, he's going to probably be a big part of this roster. So, like, it's hard for what they're doing, and then, thinking that it would be almost impossible that they would send Luisano Acuna down. Not the way the Mets are putting these lineups together every single day. Now, with Vientos out, they're both going to play. But as soon as Vientos comes back, who's playing second base? Let's say Vientos comes back tomorrow. Who would be shocked that Brett Baty would play tomorrow? Like, I wouldn't be, because that has been what the Mets have been doing. I think Acuna should play every game of this Phillies series. Probably won't happen. He's young enough to play every day. It doesn't like he needs a damn day off. He's 22 years old. He has more energy than all of us combined. So we will see. Yeah, I agree. I'm telling you, Baty got some unfortunate picks of Cohen and Stearns and probably a couple of players. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, a few years ago, I was in spring training, and this is before the Mets had Acuna, and Brett Baty and Mark Vientos, they played a scrimmage game with all their prospects, all their minor leaguers, and a couple of players, the top prospects and all that. It was orange against blue. I'll never forget that. Mark Vientos and Brett Baty had a game. Defensively and offensively. Baty and Vientos hitting the ball all over the yard. They were the stars of the show. Baty made like 3 defensive plays, 2 diving. Vientos made a couple of plays at third and first. Like, they were outstanding. And that was the first time I actually seen Brett Baty with my own eyes on the field, in person. Because you heard about Brett Baty, top prospect, blah, blah, blah. But he looks like a ball player. Like, you could see whatever it is, he turns into a complete zero when he gets to the majors. He looks like a ball player. So yeah, I was high on Brett Baty because I seen him firsthand. I'm like, he just looks like a ball player. And even on TV, he looks like a ball player until he gets up to the plate and starts swinging. Oh, Luis, I agree with you about that. And that's why it's confusing to me. There is no reason why Brett now, if Acuna does get sent down, and the reason why is because Brett Baty can be the role backup utility second, third baseman, like, understandable, I guess. But again, that's what it doesn't make sense. What you just said makes sense, but the Mets still aren't doing that. Like, he needs to be the starter. Why wouldn't he shine if he's the everyday second baseman or everyday starter? There's no signs of him not being that. Now, him being a star, again, that takes time. But there's no reason not to. But again, how many times have we said this? I mean, go back to God knows how many pre-games when Brett Baty was in the lineup and Acuna wasn't, and Acuna had a better game the day before, and it's like, I don't get it. Yeah, they're not going to make Jeff the DH. They're going to put him at second base. They're really going to put him at second base. Like, and that's the thing. Like, I would be annoyed if when Jeff McNeil comes back, Jeff McNeil's going to be the second baseman. They still haven't put Acuna in center field. I thought they would ever since Siri got hurt. I think he would play. I don't think he would play every day at center field because Tyron Taylor's going to get the bulk of the time. But they wouldn't even put him out there. I mean, Mendoza says be ready, and I was assuming, all right, if something happens to Tyron Taylor, your emergency backup plan is Luisano Acuna. Luis, Acuna deserves second right now. But again, wouldn't Acuna just be the starting second baseman? That was the whole point of trying to trade Jeff McNeil in the offseason. Nobody wanted them. The Mets, were willing to pay some of the money, but nobody wanted them. So, again, Jeff McNeil's a starting second baseman. There's no doubt about that. Like, the Mets basically telling you that. And you just hope. And what the weird thing is, they're also playing McNeil in center field in the minors during his rehab assignment. So that's even more of a reason why I think Luis Acuna is going to get sent down. Like, why would you do that? You can have Luis Acuna. You have Jesse Winker still. You still have Starlin Marte. I know both of these guys aren't guys that you want to throw out in the outfield in the corners, but they're capable outfielders. Yet, Mendoza said to Acuna, hey, be ready if we need you in center field. And they're playing Jeff McNeil in center field. Like, all those signs are telling me that Luis Acuna can possibly be sent down. Again, I don't agree with that. But the Mets are so steadfast, and Stearns has told you this, they want to develop these guys. They want them to be ready to go when they get called up to the major leagues. They don't want to have doubts. Like, that has been the MO of David Stearns. And again, I'm not going to agree with that, but they're basically throwing it in your face. Hey, Jeff McNeil, play center field. Why? That make no sense. You got Marte, you got Winker, you still have Tyrone Taylor. Marte in a pinch can play center field. Winker can't really, but in a worst case scenario, you can throw Marte out there or even Acuna. But they're playing McNeil in center field. So it's like they're giving you all the signs of the possibility of Luis Acuna going back down. And I guarantee you their reason is going to be he's going to play every day. He's going to get his at-bats. That's what they're going to say. I don't agree with it, but that seems like what they're doing, even with what they're doing with Jeff McNeil, are basically throwing you all the evidence of that. Let's see. Yeah, Joe, I agree with you. McNeil hasn't done anything in 3 years. Again, I understand that he was going to be on this roster if they couldn't trade him, but I rather have McNeil doing what Brett Beatty is doing, being the utility role player, playing third every now and then, playing second, playing the outfield, giving guys days off. That would be fine for Jeff McNeil. I'd be fine with that. Then Acuna can play second base every day. But the Mets are not doing that. So, that's what I don't understand. Jeff McNeil could play the role of Brett Beatty, of what Brett Beatty's doing, and McNeil might be a little bit better, maybe, hopefully, than Brett Beatty in that role, playing multiple positions, playing sporadically, and give Acuna the second base job. I don't see why that's so hard to make that decision, but the Mets seem like they're not doing that. Hey, listen, Brett Brady won. He got the brand new car from Juan Soto. I mean, Joel, yeah, I agree with that. Well, Dolo, yeah, I agree. Like, I agree with that. But again, going into spring training, we knew there was going to be one roster spot, especially when they weren't going to re-sign Jose Iglesias. There was going to be an infield utility spot available on this roster. It was known from day one the Mets wanted that to be Brett Beatty. They said that. Go back to the beginning of spring training when pitchers and catchers first got there. Even during the winter meetings, when they talked to David Stearns, they talked about Brett Beatty. That, there's talked about him, no reason for him to be in the minors, blah, blah, blah. They talked up Brett Beatty. And go back to our me and Chris's Mets Hot Stove shows. We talked about this all the time. David Stearns would always bring up Brett Beatty. And then when he was asked about Acuna, he was like, yeah, Acuna is going to be a big part of this roster at some point this year. He never said will be on the roster. He said at some point. Brett Beatty was always seemingly going to be on this roster most likely. They've tried to push the Brett Beatty narrative over and over again. I don't know why. And I mean, from the organization perspective and what Brett Beatty is to a minor league system, which is no point in having him there. You're not trading him right now. You're not releasing him. Again, he's going to go back to AAA. Williams, there's a couple of guys in the minors right now that are playing third base. You're going to not play them just to put Brett Beatty there and basically leave him as a door stopper, because that's all he is. So that's what I'm thinking. That's the only thing I can think of, because I don't have no other reason for it, is the fact that Brett Beatty needs to not hold up a spot in the minors for a younger player at third base, or even second base for that matter. And we all know we have a 475 middle infielders and infielders as our top 25 prospects. So you're taking away from those guys. So that's the only reason why. And Acuna's not getting enough playing time, in my opinion. He might be slowly developing more, but I wouldn't rather him. But if the Mets see or want him to get everyday at bats, he's only going to get that in the minor leagues, especially what the Mets are telling us with Jeff McNeil. Rose, I don't know if they're biased towards Beatty. You got to look at it from not a fan perspective. You got to look at it from an organization perspective. And again, right now, Luisangel Acuna, Brett Beatty are bench role players. That's what they are. Nobody has the starting job at second base. So they're basically platooning as role players and utility guys. That's what they're doing. They don't see Luisangel Acuna as a bench guy or utility guy. They can see a situation where Brett Beatty can develop into that type of player with Jeff McNeil playing second base. Like, that's the only thing I can think of. But that's what they've been showing us. Because, again, if they were so done with Brett Beatty, Acuna would have played every day, and Beatty would have been the utility guy. Maybe once a week, play second, getting that bat here and there. When there's a pinch hit situation, that's it. So, hold on, guys. I'm just looking at it. Let's see. Well, John, I don't know if you need John. I mean, I guarantee you Mike Piazza, John Olerud, Eduardo Alfonso, Ray Ordonez, all these guys have spoken to Brett Beatty at least once. Like, some guys are just not major leaguers. Now, you could still be a major leaguer and not be a starter, obviously. And I think the role that the Mets want for Brett Beatty is what he technically is right now. They don't believe that Luisangel Acuna is going to be a utility player. They believe he's going to be a starter, but he's not going to be a starter when Jeff McNeil is here. So he's going to be a bench player. Is that going to help the growth or what the Mets expect Luisangel Acuna to be, who probably is going to be the next second baseman of the New York Mets full-time next year? Stearns always looks for the future. He doesn't just look at the present. He's looking down the road. And if he believes Luisangel Acuna is going to benefit from getting everyday at-bats in the minors to make him a better player for next season and occasionally help this roster, he's going to do that. He's done it before. He said he would do that. So, again, the role for Brett Beatty, I think for the Mets, which was clear because they were going to put him on the roster if Jeff McNeil was healthy, over Luisangel Acuna, because they know Brett Beatty's not going to get playing time every single day. He's going to play sporadically, and that's it. So, unfortunately, let's hope that's not the case, and they find a way to maneuver Luisangel Acuna on this roster. And they need to play him every day. I don't know why they wouldn't want to, but again, that's the only reason I can come up with. Let's see. Lewis, well, I would hope that would be the idea, right? But even if I don't even think Acuna has to take over Jeff McNeil's spot. I think they should just put Acuna there and play Jeff McNeil every single day in multiple positions. Play him in left field today, play him in right field today, or DH him, or DH Juan Soto for one day, play McNeil in right field. They could play McNeil every single day by throwing him around the field in different positions. He plays about 4 of them. Like, you can still play Jeff McNeil if they're so desperate at playing Jeff McNeil and still start Acuna. That's what I just don't understand. There's options there, but they're not doing that. Like, again, Acuna can play center field a couple of days a week, but Jeff McNeil's playing center field in the minor leagues. Why do they need that option? Because I still believe they're going to send Luis freaking Acuna down. And it's going to be annoying, but I'm going to throw it into existence that it don't happen. But we shall see. That's still probably, hopefully, 4 or 5 days away. We will see. But overall with the game, Brian, no. Nimmo in center field is a no-go for me. Nimmo is a complete disaster. He's not the same player. Defensively, he's a step slower. And you're going to put that guy in center field with no arm? Not happening. Tyrone Taylor can hold down there. I know you're doing it because of Jeff McNeil in left field, but they're not going to put Brandon Nimmo, who they're trying to keep healthy. And I can assure you, as soon as Brandon Nimmo goes to center field, he's going to get hurt. He's got to cover way too much ground. Left field, he's stuck in the corner doing his thing, keeping him healthy. They're not going to hurt the defense by putting Nimmo in center field and Jeff McNeil in left. That is a worse outfield than what you would currently have. With Nimmo in left, Taylor in center, and Juan Soto in right, it's a better defensive outfield than what you want to happen. And Nimmo in center, McNeil in left, and Soto in right field. Stearns is not going to hurt the defense just to play Acuna. They're just not going to do that. Stearns is always advocating for run prevention. He values defense way too much. And you're going to hurt your outfield. You might help your second base defense, but you're hurting your outfield. And let's be honest, the Mets defense has been pretty damn good. So you're not going to mess with that. Yeah, Greg, I agree with you. Acuna in center field makes sense. But since Series been out, who's been playing in center field? Mostly Tyrone Taylor. Jose Azocar played the other day over Luis Acuna. So that's what it doesn't make sense. They brought up, now I understand bringing up Azocar as just a backup outfielder because you needed an extra one because you don't really trust Winker or Marte to be out there. So Azocar made sense, but they started Azocar because he could play the outfield, he could play center field, where you could play Acuna in center field. They didn't do that. So again, another sign of what I'm assuming they're thinking. Yeah, Luis, but who would you rather have in center field? Luis Acuna or Jeff McNeil? The thing was, I'm assuming they're playing Jeff McNeil in center field a couple of times is for emergency situations. God forbid if Tyrone Taylor gets hurt, you really don't have a center fielder on the roster. Brandon Nimmo, technically, but let's be honest, guys. Can we be honest with each other? Brandon Nimmo's not a center fielder anymore. Now, can he play there one game in a pinch? If things happen during a game and Nimmo has to play center, sure. But to do it consistently, God no. I think I don't know. I don't know. Well, Lewis, exactly my point. To continue to grow as he keeps getting starts. He doesn't even get enough starts with Brett Beatty on the roster. You think he's going to get it with McNeil on the roster? Like that's the issue. That's the issue. And I don't like throwing these guys out of position. I hate that. Like Acuna is probably going to be a better second baseman than a center fielder. Pretty good chance of that. With his speed, maybe he can run some balls down. But again, has anybody watched Acuna enough in center field? He's played a decent amount for the New York Mets in center field, but I mean, it hasn't really been. I mean, Chris the other day was looking for reports. Some reporter talking about him in center field. There's really nothing. Couple of stats. That's it. Defensive metrics, but nothing reported. So there's nothing been talked about Acuna in center field and how he's been. Is he running good routes to a ball? Is he hitting the cutoff man? We if you played baseball, you understand that it ain't just trying to run down a ball. You also got to hit the right cutoffs, man. You got to throw to certain bases at certain times. If you can't get the guy at home, make sure you hit the cutoff man so the guy who got the base hit is not trying to get the second base on the throw. Like, it's little things like that. I don't know if Acuna can do all that. The Mets know. I don't know. But to show that not put him there yet is odd to me when McNeil is on the verge of coming back. So, guys, the New York Mets sweep the St. Louis Cardinals. Won today 7-4, 11 hits. Now 15-7. 8 games over 500. The Phillies did lose. I believe somebody said. Haven't checked my phone, but believe somebody said. So that means the Mets are a full 2 games in front of the Philadelphia Phillies as the New York Mets play the Philadelphia Phillies for a 3-game set at Citi Field Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before they head out back on the road to Washington, which I hope I'll be there. But good news for us is that the Mets are still playing well. They're winning ball games despite the offense not at its peak yet, which is a beautiful thing to say. Can be frustrating at times, but it's a beautiful thing to say because the pitching, that when it comes to the starting pitching, have been much better than advertised. The bullpen, I thought was going to be very good, but they've been even better than that. They've been outstanding. The offense is coming along. As I said earlier, you had the Lindor walk-off, the leadoff home run to start the game. Juan Soto had 3 RBIs. Brandon Nimmo with a big hit to give the Mets the lead. All great signs from guys that have been struggling in Juan Soto and Brandon Nimmo. Great signs going into this Phillies series. With the Phillies, we'll meet. I'll get into it a little bit later or a little bit tomorrow. I believe Chris will be on the pregame tomorrow in the postgame, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure about that, but I believe so. That it's just been absolutely amazing. Like, it's been great. But overall, the Philadelphia Phillies going into tomorrow, and me and Chris will talk about that on the pregame tomorrow. We'll get into it in detail a little bit more. Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper have been red hot. Kyle Schwarber has gotten on base every game this year. I don't remember Bryce Harper and Schwarber, since they've been together, been red hot at the same time, especially ready to face the Mets. So, committee, isn't that beautiful? The Mets have a lot of good problems. When was the last time we ever said that? Too many players to choose, too many good players to choose from with only 26 men on the roster. Like, it's a beautiful thing to have. And we'll see how the Mets work the roster once everybody is healthy. Because, again, in about, I would say, 2 weeks, Alvarez, McNeil, and Nunez all should be on this roster. And then you'll have to see what you got to do with Montas and Minaya coming back. So the good news is that we have a lot of guys that can fill these roles and that can do their job. It's just a matter of what Stearns is thinking and what Mendoza is thinking as a group. We shall see. We'll be talking about it. We'll be here, and we'll be ready to go. So tomorrow, guys, pregame, game's at 7 o'clock. We'll do a pregame around 5:45 to preview the start of the Mets and Phillies series. Myself, and I believe Chris will be available tomorrow if he's not in the chat anymore, but I'll definitely be there. I think Chris will be here too for the pregame so we can preview the Mets-Phillies series. Mets win 7-4, sweep the St. Louis Cardinals. Mets are 15-7. We'll have Tyler McGill against Aaron Nola for the pitching matchups tomorrow, guys. Want to thank you for watching the amazing Mets. The Mets Postgame Show right here on the channel. Hit that like button, guys. Hit that subscribe button, not just to my channel, but of course to Chris's channel, True Mets Talk. on his channel as well, guys. Have a good day, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Easter and Passover. And I'll see you tomorrow on the Mets pregame show tomorrow with myself and Chris. Good night, guys. Let's go, Mets.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife.